I think the main thing that this movie made me think about was the fact that how far back does this, or I guess I should say, like, when did the trickery end? Like, who was the last person who knew the truth? And how much was it like people manufacturing circumstances that, number one, like, was it just that people were planted to say certain things, or were they actually all drugged?
I mean, that's a fair question.
Hi, everybody. I'm Megan,
And I'm Kirsten.
and together we are Ex Mormon Snark.
And tonight we have a very spooky Halloween edition. Ooh.
Halloween edition. I love your skeleton shirts. It looks way cooler than my costume.
Well, when we decided to do a Halloween special, I thought instead of putting on a full on costume, I would just wear something cute. And I thought you were going to be with me, but instead you showed up as, what is this, Trench Bowl, a teacher, a
No,
marm.
no. This is okay. I could be a librarian, right? Because I've got the bun.
Hey, yeah.
Um, but this is a whole tracksuit. So actually, I'm really Vector coming at you with directionality and meaning. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
I
just
love
kidding.
that.
I hate everything about it.
No, stop. Are you gonna like take off your glasses and shake out your hair in a little bit? Oh, beautiful. I love
Okay.
this shirt. If I could wear it more often than Halloween, I would. I'm not gonna lie. It's fun.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it is fun. Yeah, I mean, you can wear it more often than Halloween. Don't let anybody tell you what you can wear it whenever you want. You can just be unapologetically you, Kirsten.
Oh my god, this lady. If you guys haven't seen the short already, go watch it where I tell the story of this really, really nice, lovely lady. Okay,
Oh man.
let's get to the meat and potatoes. Tonight,
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about this. This was Kirsten's idea. Because I watched this movie back when I was Mormon and completely forgot about it 100%. And
yeah.
not even to the point, Kirsten, where when you told me about it, I was actually thinking about a completely different movie when you talked about it. And I was like, wow, I must have really been asleep. Like asleep in the mind sense of it, like just like my mind closed to any of those possibilities. Because I was like, I don't see that parallel at all. And then when I turned it on, I was like, oh yeah, this is a completely different movie.
Awesome.
Just was saying I was thinking of a completely different M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong movie.
Which one was it? I mean, the thing
It's
is,
the
we have
one.
some great movies and some not so great movies.
So his first three movies were incredible. The first one was
Yes.
the
Oh,
Sixth Sense, right?
yes. I have a great Mormon story about that too.
Oh, okay. And then the
I got
second
in trouble
one,
for seeing it.
oh, and then the second one was the one with the crop circles, right?
Signs, yes.
Science. That's the movie I thought you were talking about.
Oh, I
And
could
I
feel
and I
like
could not I could not make the parallel work. I was like, I don't know. I was like, I need to rewatch it because and then I turned it on. I was like, oh yeah, it's this one. The Village is the one we're going to talk about tonight.
yeah.
And this movie didn't do as well. And I think the reason it didn't, yeah, it did not. This was like he had the first three. Oh, the one after that was Unbreakable, I think.
Yes.
And
I
that
don't know
was
the order, but I know he did Unbreakable
right.
because I liked that
And
movie.
I think this, now I could be wrong. I think this was his fourth movie and it didn't do as well because people I think didn't really get the parallel, or they didn't like understand why this is so scary.
Yeah.
And for those of us who have come out of a high control group or a high demand religion or a cult, it's freaking terrifying when you're once
Yeah.
you're out and you look at it from that perspective. And so that's
Yeah.
why Kirsten wanted to go through this movie tonight, and I'm so excited to talk about it because I think it's underappreciated.
Oh yeah. I loved this movie. I was a lot younger than you. or it was a good 10 years younger when it came out, and I saw it. It came out in like 2004, 2005.
2004, yeah.
So I was in college and I went and saw it, and I really resonated with it. And at that point in my life, I was at BYU, and I think in the back of my head, my spidey senses were tingling, that I was being duped in some ways. And so I remember
Mm.
watching it and just being like, this movie is so great. Like, it really, for some reason, resonated with me in a very big way. And although I hadn't watched it in a while, when I thought of it, a couple days ago, I was like, oh my God, this is probably why it like sat on me so hard when I first saw it. I was like, people lie, y'all. And then they run with it and use it to manipulate people. So, anyway.
Yes. And then they gather a group of people around them to help them perpetuate the lie so that nobody finds out it's a lie.
Yes. Oh, spoiler alert. If you have not seen The Village, we're going to have a lot of spoilers. But frankly, guys, it's been over 20 years. Like,
yeah. And also, I do have to say,
I can't help you.
that's right. And if you haven't watched it, this is not really going to ruin it, I don't think, because
No.
I think that's the reason people didn't like this movie as much, is because the twist was not as twisty of a twist as the other twists in the other movies. It was just kind of like, oh, all right, so it's all a scam. So I don't think if you watch this episode and then go watch the movie, I think you'll still be able to appreciate it just as much, because it's that well done. That's my opinion.
Yeah. There's a lot of really, really good actors in it too. Very A-list.
Yes. And that was the other thing that I loved coming back to it. I was like, oh my God, that's Dallas Bryce Howard. She went on to become super famous, but although she wasn't at this time. So
yeah,
I kind of want to start at the end.
Yeah.
Because I think that will make our conversation easier and faster.
Yeah.
All right.
We
So
are on a time limit today.
We do have a little bit of a time limit. So, all right. So, we can't play clips from the movie without getting a copyright strike, but the movie is available free on YouTube.
So
Perfect.
Hulu. That's where I watched it, was on Hulu.
Okay, perfect. All right. So the movie starts out with a scene where this man is obviously crying over the coffin of a very small person. So it's obviously a child. And it looks to be very 19th century ish in this village.
Yeah.
And so, like, obviously, we're starting out with the death of a child, which is part of the reason for everything that comes after, is because, like, oh, we want to try to prevent these further deaths. Well, okay.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the end. Skip to the end. So skipping to the end, we see a picture of this group of people that is like the council of the elders in this little village, and they're dressed in modern day clothes. And what we find out is that they all met in a grief support group, because they all had lost people to violent crime, or to, was it all violent crime?
Yeah, it was, I think every single one of them was a red rum situation.
Yeah. So they all had a situation like that. And so they banded together and they decided to create a village where they isolated themselves away from the whole entire world, because the world is scary. They were trying to control a situation which is uncontrollable. None of us can completely 100% protect ourselves from violence. And that's why they started the movie with the death of a child, because it's like, this is the whole thing they were trying to prevent. But they isolated themselves so much that when this child got sick, they didn't have access to modern medicine that could have prevented his death. And so, what ends up happening is that, like, all of their efforts to try and protect themselves ended up not protecting them anyway.
Yep.
And
they talk about that at one point. They say, like, did we make the right decision? What the one that lost his son says, I came here to prevent suffering or lessen my suffering. I didn't want people to feel
Right.
that. And now I've lost everything in the same way.
Right.
And so he's like, no, even my son is gone, 7 years old. And did we make the right choice being here? And
Right.
I'm like, that's hard. That was hard on
Yeah.
me.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's of course. And I feel like it's also kind of a testament to when we go through grief, like how far we're willing to go to prevent ourselves from having to go through grief again. And a lot of us do unhealthy coping mechanisms to prevent ourselves from having to feel that again. But this just it watching it this time is so different obviously than when it first came out for
Right.
me, obviously, because I was like way in the church and in like the thick of child rearing and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
um but it this time watching it just like reminded me of when I had my faith crisis and I was trying to wrestle with this problem of like, is it just Mormonism or is it all religion? And the
Yeah.
conclusion I personally came to is that a religion is an invention. It's a man-made invention to help protect us from existential fear of death,
Yep.
fear of meaninglessness, fear of isolation, and fear of freedom.
Yes.
Religion
100%.
answers all four of those existential fears, right? It gives you
Yep.
it handles the fear of death by telling you there's an afterlife. It handles the fear of meaninglessness by giving you a greater purpose. It handles the fear of isolation by giving you community, and it handles the fear of freedom by giving you rules.
Yes.
And that all feels really safe.
So when I was in college, I took a Greek mythology class just for fun, for a summer class. I wanted an excuse not to go home for the summer. So I took this class, and I learned a lot about Greek mythology. I think every millennial girl, I joke around, had some obsession with Greek mythology or Egypt. I don't know why that is.
All right.
But
All right.
start asking people. Anyways, to me, Greek mythology is not that far off from Catholicism in that there is a saint for everything, right? There's a saint
Yeah.
for the internet, and but there's a saint for everything, and they call it Greek mythology, but it was their religion. Zeus
Mm-hmm.
was God, and every single god was over something. Hades had the afterlife, Poseidon had the water. To me, that's no different than any other religion that has multiple gods or saints or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just my parallel. So yeah.
Yeah. And then later, we went from I think most ancient religions were polytheistic in some way, and then we went from that to like I think maybe well I don't know like the history of indigenous peoples well enough to know exactly which traditions went with which peoples because I'm
Right.
not a scholar of religion, but we kind of made this shift to monotheism where it
Yep.
was one god that controlled everything. And even the native indigenous people who are indigenous to the Americas had the Great Spirit. And
Yeah.
then they also had other little things mixed in depending on which tribe they were with or whatever.
Right.
So as I was wrestling with this problem of is it Mormonism or is it everything, I just sort of had this like little vision in my head of like not that kind of vision, okay guys, but this idea in my mind of like looking at ancient peoples and thinking, okay, if they're in a village next to the ocean and they depend on the ocean for their food supply, and also the ocean is really scary, it's like sometimes the ocean like brings fish and sometimes it takes them away. So it makes sense that they invented this idea that, oh, there must be something bigger than us that's controlling the ocean,
Yeah.
something up there in the sky or whatever. And they're like, okay, let's appease this bigger thing and make it think like, we love you, we're going to give you offerings so that you'll always bring us fish. And then like, so let's say that their tradition was if they bring in 10 fish, then they throw one back into the ocean as an offering to the god of the ocean. Well, one day they throw a fish in and then a hurricane comes and decimates the entire village. So they haven't, not only have they not solved the problem because it's unsolvable, but they also have deprived themselves of that extra fish. trying to solve a problem that is unsolvable. And that's the way I felt about this movie too. It's like they caused a whole new set of problems, you know? So we should probably talk about how they decided to make sure that nobody left the village, because
Yeah.
that was the whole fear. It was like, we want to isolate ourselves, we'll be self-sufficient, there won't be any money, we'll have a barter system. And they were like, but we have to make sure nobody leaves. So how do we solve that problem?
Yeah. So they have these monsters that they have created with bones and masks and fur and large claws, and they wear red clothes.
There we go. How's that?
Perfect. Well,
I should really
just
full screen
like
it.
a red figure.
Yeah. But so this, but the vagueness of it also is part of the terror, because
Yeah.
you can't really, and that's why we as human beings, like when we see something, we're like, what is that? Because we're trying to like
Yeah.
figure out in detail, how is this thing going to kill me? Like, does
Yeah.
it have claws? Does it have fangs? Is it super fast? So like the vagueness of it. And that's also how Steven Spielberg did so well with Jaws, by
Yeah.
not showing the shark until
Yep.
the very end, right?
Yeah.
Just showing parts of it. It was the music. You knew it was coming, you know? So this is what they show us at first. And then, so
So here I want to
go
show
ahead.
too I was gonna say, I want to point out that they talk about the red being the bad color because it's the color of the monsters, and yellow is like the color of protection. Like they physically
Mhm.
cloak themselves with these colors. Um, and one thing I noticed is right at the beginning, they see the red flower and they take it and they bury it because they don't want the red color attracts the monsters. And this
Mhm.
made me think of Mormonism or religion in general, that if you're told to avoid something, if you come upon it, instead of talking about it or kind of working through why that might be negative or whatever, they literally bury it, you
Yeah.
know, turn it off,
Like a light switch. Oh, sorry, we're not allowed to do that. Um, but
But
yeah,
also the
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was gonna say also the yellow of protection made me think of like the garments. Like we're special, we put this on, we're protected, evil can't get us. When it's just as mundane, I guess, as putting on the yellow cloak. Like
Yeah.
fabric is not gonna protect you or save you or anything like that. It's just something that people do or come up with to represent something or other themselves. Or I mean, how many times do they talk about, oh, I can see your religion? I remember people saying that because the little lace would stick out. Or
Right. You're showing your
I don't
religion. But
know,
yeah,
that's what made me think of it.
it's a superstition, just like,
Yeah.
just like all religious traditions have a superstition. So I feel like they created this monster,
Hmm.
and so they actually had costumes that they would put on so
Right.
that people would see the monster going through the village but never attacking them. So the story was like, they've
Right.
never attacked us unprovoked. We know they're really scary, but as long as we do these things, then we'll be okay. Which reminds me a lot of religion in general, but also Mormonism, where it's like, okay, you have to say the prayer this specific way, and then you'll be protected from the monster who is the devil.
Hmm. Yep.
And so they make you afraid of the devil, they make you afraid of hell, and then they tell you, do these specific things and you'll be okay. Even for Mormons, down to like wearing the garment and the literal burying of like anything that reminds us of the monster.
Yes.
So the monsters wear the red cloak, so red is a forbidden color. There is no red in the village at all, and part of the problem comes about because this poor child who is developmentally delayed, he goes into the forest and he brings some red berries back. And they were
Yep.
like, don't do that. This is the bad color. Don't ever, go for these berries
Yep.
again.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I don't know. It's like create the problem and provide the solution. We all know that.
exactly.
And it's
Yes.
part of religion, and that's
Yes.
what they did. They made people afraid, and then
Hmm.
they provided the solution. Oh, you stay here. You wear the yellow cloak. You make sure you don't go into the woods. And that keeps them from being able to find the truth. This
Right.
made me specifically think about the internet or reading outside Mormon materials.
100%.
There was a Mormon ad that I wanted to see. I'm like, I wonder if you can find it. I don't know if
Yeah,
you.
I can pull it up.
That's the
Yeah.
one. Yep, you found it.
Yeah, it says too much information, try life unplugged. So they don't want you to go, researching things.
Right.
And I also want to point out that Russell Nelson was a big fan of doing social media fasts.
Yes.
And he implemented the first social media fast the week before his daughter was implicated in a child SA scandal.
Yes.
And, you
How
know,
convenient.
I don't really believe in coincidences. So, I kind of think that that was on purpose, but then social
Yes.
media fasting became kind of a thing that people would do on their own because they're like,
Yes.
oh, the prophet told us it was good at this one time. And what they would also do is they would make you think about all of the benefits that you got from doing this social media fast. So then people would
Yes.
say, yeah, when President Nelson asked us to not go on social media for a week, I noticed these things about my life that were more peaceful, that were better. I enjoyed things more. I did more with my kids. Like they would give their own reasons of why that was a good thing. And then they would go on their own and say, you know what, I was feeling really discombobulated. So I felt like I should go on a social media fast again because that worked for me last time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that sort of builds this narrative that like it's a really good thing for you to isolate yourself from the news and everything else. And so it's a way that high control groups get individuals within the group to gaslight themselves.
Absolutely. I mean, as I was thinking this over, I was kind of going over talking points that I wanted to bring up with my husband. And I told him, do you realize the first non LDS source I ever went to was because my husband encouraged me to when we started dating? And I had told him, like, oh, yeah, I was raised Mormon, but I'm kind of, I was very much on the fence. I'd go to church once in a while. But he knew a lot about Mormonism. And he was like, oh, so do you know about this? And he would bring up historical facts. And I would get very apologetic and almost defensive sometimes. And he encouraged me to read a book that he had. Um, I think it was on the Mormon massacre, the Meadows massacre. And I was like, ugh, fine. And I read it because I was dating him and I was like, okay, I'll see. And that really started me looking into non LDS provided um, documentation. And I just think it's so funny that I was almost 30 before I ever looked at something at all that was not church provided.
Yeah.
And I said to him, this was just last night, I was like, isn't that insane that I'm such an educated individual. I mean, I don't want to be like, oh, I'm educated, but like, I'm an educated individual in that I always do my own research. I never go by whatever the first click is on Google. Like, so why did I consistently depend on material only provided from one source? Like, it's just
Hmm.
to me, but that's not something that's weird in religion. You want to go back to the Bible, you want to go back to the Book of Mormon, you want to go back to general conference talk. But if that's literally being in an echo chamber, and that's the same thing here. They don't
Yeah.
want them to go into the forest because the towns or civilization is not that far off. I mean, Ivy walked there in what, a day, if that. Like, it wasn't
Yeah.
even more
Less
than
than
a
that.
couple miles.
Yeah,
So
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was trying to think of examples in the movie where they would like gaslight themselves or where the lead like this council of elders, notice they're the oldest people in the town. There's nobody older than them, right? And
correct.
so and the head guy is the school teacher. And
Yeah.
so, the day after this funeral happens, the children find a dead animal that's been skinned
Right.
and it's really disturbing. So the teacher brings them into the classroom and says, who could have done this? And they all say, oh, the people we don't speak of. And so it's like this opportunity to tell the narrative again and to teach the kids the mythology behind all of it.
One point, Joaquin Phoenix mom, I can't think of the actress names.
Sigourney Weaver.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I'm like,
you're welcome.
Thank you. She's like, it's a coyote, because she knows it was none of the elders that did it, and they were the only ones that know, it's fake. So she's kind of gaslighting herself. She's like, it's a coyote, but then they come and the monsters come and walk through, and they're like, why did this happen? Who could have done this? And she's like, it's probably because someone made them angry. And that's when they went to, Joaquin Phoenix confesses, writes this letter and says, oh, I walked into the woods. I'm the one that brought this upon the town. When that wasn't it at all. It was, Adrian Brody doing these things,
right,
escalating. And, it's one of those things that it made me feel like, or think of, if something bad happens, how many times do we say, oh, this is my fault for not being righteous? This is my fault. And you literally start racking your brain of what you could have done wrong. And it can be
right,
something simple as, I had an unkind thought about my neighbor. Like,
yeah,
how many times have we said, as children, would be like, well, I was mean to my sibling, so then this bad thing happened.
right,
So I guess that was
right.
kind of what I thought about that gaslighting of him thinking, oh, this has to be me, and all of them kind of running with it, or letting him think that,
Right.
yeah.
Well, but I think it's even more insidious than that, because at the beginning of the movie, um, kind of going back to like tell the progression of the story now. So
Yeah.
we know that a child has died. We know that red is the bad color because they bury the red stuff. Then the elders are having a council meeting, and Joaquin Phoenix's character comes in and he says, look, I don't want this to happen again. So I want to go into the forest and face the monsters. I don't think that they're going to kill me. So I want to go face them so that I can go get medicine from the other towns. And, his mom that night says, you can't do that. You can't go into other towns. They're evil. And then she tells him about the story of your father was killed in this way. And this is the first time he's finding out about it. And so she's saying, we need the protection of the village. Well, then Joaquin Phoenix's character runs into Adrian Brody, who plays the child who's developmentally delayed, who's gone into the forest and gotten the red berries. So then Joaquin Phoenix goes to the council and he's like, look, I know that this person went and found berries, and because of his innocent mind, they're not harming him. And so I know they're not going to harm me either. And so that's probably when the council went, okay, somebody went into the forest. So now we have to step things up and make sure that people are scared to go in the forest. We know he went in there. There has to be a consequence of that. And so while they're having this wedding celebration and the whole town is at the wedding celebration, the monsters have gone through the town and hung dead animals from all of the doors and painted all the doors with a red mark on it as a warning of like, don't come into the forest again, don't do it. And so like, what I was thinking to myself, like as I was watching this a second time, like, do you know how long it would have taken to skin that many sheep? That's a really long time. It would have taken them. There's no way they could have done that in a day.
Like, that's not how that works. Far from Megan coming out to tell us.
Oh man. Okay, so this is Joaquin Phoenix and Bryce Dallas Howard, and they are like the main characters basically. So Bryce's character is partially blind, like almost all the way blind. Like she can only see like shapes and a little bit of an aura. And Joaquin Phoenix is like the bravest person in the village. When they were little, they used to play this game where they would stand on a tree stump with their back to the forest where they knew the creepy guys were, and just stand there with their arms out as long as they could until they got scared. And so Joaquin's character has done that for the longest, you know?
Yeah,
And
he
so
holds
he's
the record of
right,
doing it the longest.
right, right. And so he's very brave, and he also is in love with Dallas's character.
Yeah.
Um, and I think one of the reasons why he's so brave is because, and maybe they even talk about this, oh, they do talk about it a little bit, but he tells her, like, I just think, he says, I think about the next, like, what is the right thing to do, and what's the next thing to do. And he says, the reason that I'm terrified for you is because, you know, you're like, she's partially blind, and so she's the most vulnerable of all of them, not being able to see the monsters, you know.
Yeah.
And so he's very protective of her because he loves her. And this is him, you know, saving her from the monsters at one point. When they see a monster walking through the village, she's like, no, I don't want to hide because he's coming back and I'm going to wait for him. And so this is him, like, saving her from the
Yeah.
monsters.
So throughout the movie, Adrian Brody's character, you know, he has disabilities, and Ivy, Bryce Dallas Howard, she is someone that's very patient with him and plays with him, and you know, they have foot races, and they lock him in the quiet room, and she doesn't make him go in there because she's just like, promise me you're gonna behave and we'll, you know, go and play and hang out. So basically, her and Lucius Joaquin Phoenix are falling in love and have decided to get married. And at this point, um, Noah, Adrian Brody's character, is really upset. So he ends up stabbing Joaquin Phoenix.
So this is Adrian Brody after he has stabbed Joaquin Phoenix's character, and he's got red on his hands, and he just goes, he's like sitting on the chair on his porch, and his parents are like, where is he, where is he? They come and find him, and he's just sitting there, and he's just says, bad color, bad color, and he starts to cry. But his mind is not developed enough to be able to say what happened or who it happened to or anything like that. So the villagers are all running around trying to find who it was that got harmed by him.
Right.
And so these two girls come to Ivy's house, Bryce's character, and tell her they're looking for somebody that Noah has harmed, and she immediately knows that it's Adrian, because she knows, or sorry, not Adrian. She immediately knows it's Joaquin Phoenix's
Yeah.
character.
Yes. So yeah, she goes in there, and she says she can't see his color, his aura anymore. So she knows something really bad has happened. And basically, she's driven by this. She wants to go to the town and see if she can get medicine to help him. And the elders have a gathering. One of them is a doctor. And basically, her father is like, is there anything that we could do to make this stop? Because they're like, we just have to pray he's got an infection. And he's like, if there was anything at all that we could do, could it be like, could he be saved? And you just see this like silence between them. Basically, they come to the realization if they have penicillin, they can control the infection, he'd be fine. So they're
Mm-hmm.
trying to decide if they want to like give up this secret or not. And Ivy is really, really insistent. She's like, if something happens to him, I'm gonna die with him. Like, I'm not okay. I have to do something.
You know, so the chief council guy wants to let Ivy go into the town, or no, he wants to go do it because he's like, this is the only thing I can do for her. This is the only thing I can give her. And his wife is basically like, you made an oath with the council to never leave this place.
Right.
And he's like, but I don't know what else to do. And she's like, you're not listening to me. You made the oath.
Yeah.
And so they sort of come up with this idea of like, okay, well, Ivy can go because she didn't make the oath.
Right.
And so he makes the decision to tell Ivy the secret that they invented the monsters, which this shack in the background is where they hide the monster costumes.
Yeah.
And so he basically tells her, this is all not, none of this is real. There are no monsters, but we have to keep it a secret in order to keep everybody safe. So I'm going to give you a bag of magic rocks. and you take two people
Oh,
with you. Yeah. You take two people with you to
would you
go.
say it's like, would you say it's the mouth of two witnesses?
I think
Perhaps.
I think it might be the mouth of two witnesses. So, but also since she's partially blind, she's probably going to need some help, you know, getting to the town and finding medicine, whatever. So, so so they she tells the story that like because we have the magic rocks, we're going to be okay.
Right.
Um, but the
One
two
thing
S.
I do oh, one
Go
thing I
ahead.
do want to point out is right at that moment when she's like, "Okay, we have the magic rock." One of the boys that goes with her straight up says, "Why have we never heard of these rocks before?" And he says it multiple times, and I don't think she gives him an answer. She just kind of looks at
Right.
him.
She doesn't know what
Oh,
to say. Like,
no.
what do you say at that point?
To
She would
me,
have
this
to.
almost sounds like making up things on the spur of the moment. Who does that remind you of?
It also reminds me of leaders of the church not answering the tough questions because they can't, because they don't have an answer for you. So they just say,
Nope.
it's a mystery. God will figure it out. You can ask God when you get to heaven, you know? And it's like
Yeah.
the perfect lie because you can't come back from heaven and report that, hey, guys, this is all fake. You
Yep.
don't find out till you're dead. And that's another reason I think near death experiences are so popular because it sort of like
Yeah.
confirms what we believe. Like there was a tunnel of light. I felt peace. I saw people I loved. You know,
Yeah.
that sounds like heaven. And so again, there again, though, we have this chicken and egg situation because if you already have that in your mind, then when you experience something, you know, that is close to death, is that your mind imprinting your predisposed notion of heaven onto your brain? Or
I would say yes. I would confirm that.
right. So I don't think I've ever heard a story anyway of anybody coming back and saying it was hell and I'm going to be good for the rest of my life, you know, like I saw hell, I saw fire, I saw the devil. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that.
That's actually a really, really good point. Okay, Megan, I legitimately have never thought about that. It seems so obvious, but I legitimately have never thought about it. But I for sure have never heard, oh, I met Satan and there was fire and a burning lake. Like, no one has ever said that. They always say there's light, they felt love, they had a life review, whatever.
You
So,
you know what the apologists are going to say, Kirsten? They're going to say that's because heaven's real, Kirsten.
whatever. I'm just saying. there, there are some people that I'm sure were not the best humans that could have had a near death experience and seen things other than love and light, but they have not reported back. Maybe, I don't know.
As far
Maybe
as I
they're too
know,
embarrassed. Yeah, as
you
far as
know, maybe somebody in our audience knows of one of those, and if you do, I would be fascinated. I absolutely would love it. So please email us and let us know. So then, yeah, so then Ivy does go into the forest, and this is like the thing that I showed you, you know, right when we were first talking about what the monster looks like.
I'm going to
Um,
interrupt you. I apologize, but
you're
also
fine.
the thing we forgot to mention is when the elder, or it's her dad, Mr. Walker, is showing her the costumes, he does put in her head that they came up with this because there were rumors of monsters in the forest that he had
Yeah,
heard of. So
right,
in her mind, she knows that they've been making it up and the monsters might not exist, but also she was told they might. They just had never seen them. So that's what makes this next part, I think, more believable too. Is she's blind, but she hears it. She thinks a
right,
monster is coming.
right.
Yeah.
All she can see is a shape. And
Yes.
she can see the color. Well, no, she can't see the color red. She can just see the like the aura of the person.
Right. Right.
So so yeah, when we get so then of course the two people that went with Ivy, they end up being too scared to
Yep.
like go with her. And when the second person leaves her, she dumps the rocks out on the ground.
Yeah.
Like as a symbolism of like, I don't need these effing rocks anymore because I'm not trying to convince anybody else and I know the truth.
Right.
You know, so she ends up, you know, as a blind person might do, she ends up falling into a hole, but she's able to climb out. And then she does go to the town. She has to climb over a wall to get there, and she meets a very nice little park ranger who gets her the medicine that she needs to bring back to the village. But when she's on the way back, so she runs into this park ranger, and this is like it's basically a nature preserve. And we find out that they've paid people to not fly airplanes over it
Yep.
so that they don't know what an airplane is because they would be very confused, right? So apparently they've fixed a lot of different things to say like this is a nature preserve, probably paid for by the people who, you know, whatever did it.
No, it is. Yeah, they say that her grandfather, that's one of the reasons he helps her, is because her name's Ivy Walker. It's the Walker Animal Preservation, because the grandfather, basically, he was a billionaire. They show like
Yeah,
paper articles.
right.
Died, left all the money, and so they had the money to build this whole thing, and they just said it was a nature preserve. They paid off the government to make it a no-fly zone. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So he gets her the medicine that she needs and she takes it back. But then on the way back,
No, it's on the way there.
oh,
I
it's on the
think
way
it's
there.
on the way
You're
there. Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so she gets attacked. The monster comes out and finds her. Um, and she gets attacked, but then she remembers the hole in the ground. And so um she puts herself out there
Yeah.
for the monster to come get her. And then just at the last second, she steps away and the monster falls in the hole. Duh.
She
Okay.
thinks it's the monster. So that's one of the things that comes back to at the end is everyone says Ivy's back and she was attacked by a monster, but she killed it. And the
Right. Oh, right.
of Adrian Brody start crying because one of the costumes they had hidden in their floorboards just out of, I guess, convenience. I don't know. And they couldn't find Adrian Brody and they saw that the costume was missing. So,
Yeah. Well, I think the reason they had them hidden in their floorboards is because all of the council had to participate in
oh,
perpetuating the
yeah,
myth.
that makes sense. Yeah.
So, yeah. So they had to have costumes readily available so that they could be like, oh, while the villagers are at the wedding ceremony, the rest of us will dress up and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was part of keeping the myth alive. And so
Right.
even though she was told the monsters weren't real, they were made up, she encounters a monster in the forest and then is able to take back to the village the mythology of
Right.
like it was
Yeah.
real. And then the elders can also perpetuate the myth, and they actually have this conversation of like we can tell people that the monsters killed Noah because he was in the forest.
Right.
And
They said that
yeah,
will keep it alive. That will keep the story going, you know?
right. And then also, like, as a villager, can you imagine the fear of, like, oh my gosh, the monsters killed one of us, and then we killed a monster. So now they're still going to be mad at us. So now we still have to do all of the things to protect ourselves and everything. And so, yeah. And so that, I mean, to me, it's obvious the way that this ties into Mormonism,
Yes.
but I don't know if we need to be more, like, I don't know if we need to explain it more.
Well, this is the thing I thought about as I was watching it, especially this time around since I was taking notes. When Ivy comes back, she knows that this is made up, at least partially. She does have like, okay, maybe there really are monsters out there. I killed one, you know. Um, but she knows that this is made up and this is a lie and they're not in the 1800s. Or maybe she doesn't realize they're not in the 1800s because she can't see. She didn't see cars. She didn't see the medicine, you know, whatever.
Right.
But she does come back with this story. And I wonder, let's say Lucius is fine. They give him the medicine. He becomes whole or whatever, and they get married. Does she ever tell him? Or does she keep that to herself and she becomes the only one that dresses in the monster costumes? Does she bring him in? Does he get upset and think that, you know, with his character being how it is, like he wanted to go to the towns, he wanted to go in the forest. at one point even tells his mom, he's like, why'd you keep this a secret, when she talks about how his father was killed. And
Mm-hmm.
there's whispers in the town, there's secrets everywhere. Like, he's digging deeper and deeper. And so I literally thought, what happened to their marriage? What's going to happen if she shares this with him? Is he going to get mad and think, okay, people have been lying to us all our life, I'm out of here? Is he going to get mad at her for keeping something from him if she doesn't tell him right away? Like, I wondered how that goes, because how many relationships fall apart from high demand religions when one person wants to leave or find something out and feels very hurt when they find out,
Right.
versus one person might, I mean, we hear this all the time, that one person starts to not believe and they don't share it with their spouse, or they share it
Right.
slowly, and that causes
Right.
contention in their marriage. Like, that's, I guess that's where my head went. I just kept thinking, what happens after this? What is going to
Well,
happen in that relationship when she gave up everything to try and save him because she loved him?
well, this is actually a perfect segue into my original question, which is, at what point did the church leaders have to face this same question of what do they do?
Yeah.
Because Joseph Smith was a treasure digger. He had this magical thinking, this sort of like connection to the occult of like, there's a spirit guarding your buried treasure. And so, I think the religious, or I should say, like, the idea of this religion is an outgrowth of that,
Yeah.
of him making up these stories. And he was brilliant in that he did the same thing as the villagers did, gathered a group of followers around him who could share this mythology, because you can't keep a story like that alive by yourself,
Yeah.
right? It gets bigger than you, and then you need more people. um and so this is my question, is when, so I think that the people closest to Joseph Smith knew that it was an invention. I think that there had to have been signs that came up and everything. But Joseph Smith also made the mistake of not having a succession policy. And so when he was killed, I think that's when this group of people had to make a decision about what to do. The group of people who were helping Joseph keep the secret. And Brigham Young was one of those. And so I suspicion that Brigham Young came up with a plan of saying, look, it's going to be Sidney Rigdon or it's going to be me. And Sidney Rigdon, spoke to this large group of people. Brigham Young's like, we got to gather them all together, and we'll just, he'll speak and I'll speak. And at the end, the people will decide, okay, so when I speak, I want a few of you to go in the audience and say, oh my gosh, he looks just like Joseph Smith. He's taken on the appearance of Joseph Smith. And that was the mythology that went on. It's even in one of my fourth great grandfather's diary that he was there at the meeting and witnessed Brigham Young transfiguring into looking like Joseph Smith. So that's my question, is like, were there just plants in the audience, or did they drug everybody when they passed the sacrament? Like, did they slip something into the sacrament wine at that point, or water, or whatever they used at that point? Or was the bread laced with mushrooms or something, so that, so that people were more susceptible to believing this magical idea that Brigham Young was supposed to be the next prophet?
I think that the power of persuasion, or the power of suggestion, is stronger than a lot of people realize. In
Yeah.
my tinfoil hat, how
Yeah.
many times have we been, I mean, think about it. You've been at work or something, you have coworkers and they start a rumor mill. One person could literally not like someone and be like, I heard this person was having an affair. I heard this person was doing it. And it goes everywhere and everybody will believe it without questioning. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, that totally makes sense, when there's literally no proof. I mean, we've
Right.
all been in situations. So if
Right.
someone's like, oh my gosh, if someone truly believes with their heart, like the Book of Mormon was real and Joseph was a prophet, And then one of Brigham Young's cronies comes and is like, oh my gosh, did you see he looked just like Joseph? They'll be like,
Right.
oh my gosh, right. Or there's also the possibility they didn't want to be left out. They don't want to seem like less spiritual. So if they're like, now
Right.
I can see that, now you're the weird one because other people are saying they did. And these
Yeah.
people
And
must have the spirit of discernment to see that.
yeah, and that's one of the things that the historians will point out is that the majority, and I don't think they even found one account, that all of these accounts of Brigham Young transfiguring or looking like Joseph Smith were late accounts, meaning that nobody went home that day and wrote in their diary, I was there and I saw this. They all came much later. It was like they all wrote this in their diaries later, like much, much later. And so I think what you're saying is really true. Like the power of suggestion is it's very powerful, you know?
Yeah.
So then my next question is, Brigham Young takes power. They all trauma bond over crossing the plains. And so now they have doubled down so hard that it's like, if this is not true, then all those people lost their lives for no reason.
Right.
You know, so that's like the ultimate like mind F that you have to overcome. So my question is, which was the last of the leaders that knew it was made up? Because
No.
Latter-day Prophets are number one, Joseph Smith, then Brigham Young. John Taylor came third, we know, then Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow.
I don't know. John Taylor, I feel like for sure knew. He was there in the same room when Joseph was murdered. They thought he
Right,
was dead, but
right.
he got shot and his pocket watch stopped the bullet. It's actually in
Yeah,
a museum in Salt Lake or something, or maybe I don't even know.
yeah. And
It's in a
then
museum.
for
I've seen it.
somehow the mattress ended up on top of him, so they didn't know that
They're,
they thought he was dead. Yeah.
right. They thought he was dead. So why else would he be in jail with Joseph? Because he was in on it. I mean, he
Yeah,
had to have been. Joseph was
right.
arrested for wanting the printing press burned down. So why would they also arrest John Taylor? I don't know. Maybe because he also was like, yeah, burn that bitch down, you know?
Yeah. Okay. So Joseph F. Smith, remember the F?
Yeah,
He was the fifth. So Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, John Taylor, Wilford Woodruff, Lorenzo Snow, Joseph F. Smith was the sixth
right,
president of the church. He
right.
was the one who removed the original First Vision account from Joseph's diary, cut it out with a penknife. So I think he knew, because
I
he's like, well, if this gets out, then the real First Vision story is false. And so I think he's protecting that secret.
yes, yeah. I
And
mean,
then who else do we have? What other of the prophets do we know were covering stuff up? I don't know. I'll just put this out there. I don't know, because I don't know enough about that period of church history because I wasn't born yet. But
what?
we do know that when the Mark Hoffman forgeries came around, the salamander letter came around, it was Gordon B. Hinckley who became the prophet later. Dallin Oaks was in on that crap. They were trying to buy this letter that was a forgery, but it suggested that Joseph Smith had been led to the golden place by a salamander and not by the angel Moroni. So they wanted to buy that letter and put it in the vault so nobody could know about it. So that tells me, in my opinion, allegedly, Dallin H. Oaks knows, and he's the current prophet of the church.
I honestly, we kind of talked about this beforehand. I think all of them know, at least at some. You cannot be that high in the church without knowing the inner workings.
Right.
They all know they have investment accounts. They all know there's corporations. They all know all of that. How can you know
Yeah.
all of that and still believe everything to be true? I don't think you can, because if you're going to be the head of the church, which is the head of the corporation, you have to know the inner workings of it, the ins and outs,
Right.
you know?
If you don't know the secrets, then you can't protect the secrets.
Correct. So I really do think that at some level, even if they do believe the Book of Mormon, or they believe some of this stuff, which I'm sure they do believe some of it, you know, they have to at some level know they are manipulating the system, or they're manipulating the people, or they, even if they don't share with other people, there is no way the 12 didn't know that Russell and Nelson had an agenda. There's no way they didn't know, you know. There's no way. I'm sorry. There's no way when you're that close with people and talk that much and have to run a business and have to run a church and have to write general conference talks, all of these things, and put things in place. There is no way they don't know there is an agenda going on.
Yeah.
There's just not. So
Um, that's also why I think they the second anointing,
yeah,
because I think that they know that, of course, all of these rules and stuff don't matter. And so they have to give themselves an out of like, okay, I want to follow these rules, you know, rules for me and not for thee, and
yeah,
that's why I think they gave themselves the second anointing to say, like, well, now you've proved yourself loyal to the church. And so from now on, you can't really be held accountable for any sins you commit, which then gives them a free pass to whore around or whatever their favorite proclivity is, you know, and to just, get a pass for it. So like if somebody were to, for example, if they screw up and somebody witnesses one of them sinning, they can be like, well, I've had the second anointing and, so it's all good. So this actually brings me all the way back around to, I really think that Gordon Hinckley was trying to tell us without telling us. Because I think in his later years, I think he maybe started to feel guilty about all of these people trapped in in a mind cage,
yeah,
and so I think he was trying to give little hints to people so they could escape if they wanted to, because he would say things like, it's either all true or it's all false, and he would say
yeah,
either Joseph Smith was a prophet of God or he was the greatest fraud that ever lived.
yeah,
Either the Book of Mormon is true or the whole religion is a sham. He would say those, he would make those black and white statements. There's no real gray
yeah.
area in there. And so that's why, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm projecting, but if it was me and I was at the head of an organization and I was trapped into keeping secrets, I would probably at least tell the people that I love the most. And I would be like, you can't ever say anything. You have to pretend like it's true, but live your life and be happy.
Yeah, I do think at some point it would really get to me, or get to some people. I would hope. That's why we see it more and more, I believe, that the men that are at the top of the church, it is kind of a political game. Not kind of. It is a political game.
It
It is
is.
legal. It is, honorable to be in the first presidency and things like that. And they play the game.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. I can never be in politics or a CEO because I'm not political enough. There are points when you own a company, or you're at the head of a company, or in politics, that you make morally gray decisions, or just morally bad decisions, if we want to go there.
Right.
There's
Right.
no way, there is no way to get that high in an organization without stepping on someone or making a choice that you normally wouldn't. At
Right.
some point, it just isn't. And whether they keep that to themselves or not, they get to a point where it's like blood oath. We don't tell anyone. I didn't see what you did. You didn't see what I did. We're here. We're
Yeah.
going to work together. You know, I
Well,
just,
because
that's
the
what it is.
consequence, yeah, because the consequence is losing all of that power and influence and control and clout. And, I say this all the time, like they have every single need met. They don't
Yeah.
want for anything. They are adored when they go out in public.
Yeah.
I mean, who is going to make the voluntary choice to burn it down? And
Yeah.
it's why I suspicion that that one apostle was excommunicated, or he was a member of the 70. Garrett Gong, was it? No, it wasn't
Oh,
Garrett Gong.
yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. I totally forgot about all of that. I was like, what are you talking about? Yes.
And it what he
I
and they made a big point of
yeah.
saying it wasn't an issue of faith.
Yes.
They made a big point of saying that. I think it was probably that he was like, I'm not doing this. This is wrong,
Yeah.
you know?
I
And maybe it's why Dieter Uchtdorf got demoted as well.
I was literally about to say that. I was going to say, I think that with Uchtdorf, a lot of people really liked him and he felt, to me, the most authentic. I liked him when I was in the church, you know? Um, and then when he got demoted, I was like, oh, he stood up to someone. I really think he stood up to someone.
Right.
I don't know who, but he said something they didn't like. And that's why he's not in the first presidency, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and they must have convinced him. Now this is all conspiracy tinfoil hat stuff, right? We're just total conjecture here, where we're just like
Right.
talking out of our butts at this point. But
Yeah.
I can imagine a scenario in which they convinced him to stay because the church does more harm than, or does more good than harm.
Oh yeah. I'm so sure. Um I mean,
They're like, think of how many people's lives would just fall apart if they found out the church was not true. And do you really want to do that to people?
yeah, I 100% agree. Going back to like with Joseph, you were like, who knew or who knew it was a lie or whatever. So many, like, isn't it like all of the witnesses or close to all of them or something ended up falling away from the church or leaving, and things like
Yep.
that. And I heard once that I think it was Oliver Cowdery or something that said he would never deny the spirit or the Holy Ghost or what he saw.
Yeah.
I think he was threatened. I really do. I
Yeah.
think that he was like, fine, if you want to leave, fine. They had a falling out, but he's like, but if I ever find out that you tell people that I made it up, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
And
And it was a real threat because,
yeah,
yeah, Joseph Smith had his enforcement squad, and,
yeah,
or that the Danites, went around literally. Uh, I always can't say this word. They went around enforcing the blood oaths. They went around enforcing blood atonement.
right. So
Um,
there was
so
a
yeah,
real threat.
yeah,
And, you know, people used to say, after Joseph died, Emma didn't want to go with anybody or left or whatever because she probably knew it was BS too. She was sick
right.
of his shit. She was sick of all the churches
She stayed
bull.
behind in Nauvoo, and 100%. I'm like, yeah,
I mean, how could you not? She, lost children. She'd been through all of this with Joseph. She'd
right,
been cheated on, at all of these things. No wonder she was like, nah, he's dead. I'm good. Peace.
right,
You guys
right,
go live your craziness. Because even now, this is my opinion again. People know that you can start a religion and become very wealthy and profitable. And people knew that even back then. If you
right,
keep followers and it feeds that narcissistic need to have attention and control and all of these things. So when Joseph saw that it was being successful, of course he's going to attract people with that same personality traits, which I think was Brigham Young. Brigham Young then promised other people power to
right.
keep, even if he didn't tell them it was all made up or whatever, he'd be like, look, come and hang out with me. You make me a leader, I got you. We're
Yep,
gonna make this and this and this happen. It's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna continue polygamy. I'm gonna
yep.
take everybody somewhere where they can't bother us. And those
And
people
he
are
was wealthy,
like, okay, yes, he was wealthy.
so
So other people wanting to be in his favor are all like, oh my God, he turned into Joseph. This is so, oh my God. And they're like, right, right. And I mean, how easy is that? we see that even now. People get manipulated so easy. I don't want to name any names, but oranges. I think that's enough said.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think the very first thing that I said to you when we started talking about this is that, these people in the village started this village to try and solve a problem that couldn't be solved.
Right.
And the opening scene with the child dying just proves that not only did they not solve the problem, but they also
Made it worse.
created a lot more problems, and I think the same can be said of the church. Like, we may have solved
Right.
the existential fear, we may have solved like some problems about questions about heaven and other things like that, but look at how many
Yeah.
people have been harmed in the process. Not even like, just beginning with the indigenous peoples that were slaughtered, and continuing on through,
The
not caring that, well, yeah, but specifically the Mormon church, though, not even caring that LGBTQ members are unaliving themselves at a high rate because of the policies
Yes.
of the church. That's the thing that I look at and I say, even one life is too many lives. And although it would be psychologically harmful to a lot of people, it's like, how do you solve this problem where you take care of the psychology of some people but also prevent death? Like, you created this huge problem and there's
Yeah.
really no way to solve it without hurting more people.
Yeah. Yeah. So, on that note, I hope you all
That's
have a very happy Halloween.
Yes, but don't forget this is important.
The Lord does not need your money.
Or your candy. That's for you. You eat that
That's right.
candy.
You keep your own candy. Don't give a tenth of it back to the church. Save it for yourself.
Save it for
Well, I hope.
yourself and go watch The Village. I think it's a great
Yes,
movie.
it is a
Go watch
great movie. Yeah, I
So,
liked it even better the second time watching it with this new context. And it's a good scary movie for Halloween. Have a happy
it,
Halloween, Kirsten.
oh, you too, Megan. I hope everyone gets to see all the cute little kids in their costume. And a reminder, if you see a teenager out there, give them some candy. At
Yeah.
least they're out trick or treating and not like egging houses or doing worse.
Or
So
smashing
give them the
pumpkins, or
candy.
yeah, just give
Even
them,
just give them the candy.
if they still believe in their childhood enough that they wanted to dress up, give them the candy. Just give them the
Yeah.
candy. By the way, Kirsten, what's your favorite Halloween candy?
Oh, nerds. I love nerds. They're
Nerds
so
are
good.
great. Nerds are great.
Nerds and
I
Twix. If I had to choose a favorite chocolate, it'd be Twix.
Mine used to be Three Musketeers.
But
Um, but I really like Milk Duds a lot, but I can't eat them now because they ruin my teeth. They like get stuck to my teeth. So I can't eat them anymore. So I will opt for any kind of a softer caramel. I love myself too much to eat crappy candy. So I will go get the really good caramels that are really soft.
I have to tell you, I bought sticker packs to go with candy too
Aw,
this year. Well,
nice.
because I know that some kids, like their parents, will be like, "You can't have too much candy," blah blah
Right.
blah.
Or
And
peanut
I got
allergies or
right.
gluten.
So I did buy some candy, and then I also bought sticker packs of like cute little ghosts and pumpkins, and I got
Aw,
some like video game like popular stickers and things like that. So if the kids want a sticker, they can have stickers too. But
that's
like
so cute. I
big
love that.
good ones, like people put on their Stanley cups, like good stickers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That's
I don't know.
awesome. I love that.
I hope it'll be fun. But happy Halloween, everyone. Thanks for
Happy
hanging out
Halloween.
with us. We'll see you
Yeah.
on Monday.
See you on Monday for family night. Don't forget.